Okay, this is going to be a little demonstration on how I did that marketing image out of Zbrush and without having to take it into an external program and do render passes and having to bake out maps and do UVs and all that stuff. This is just going to be all Zbrush and Photoshop work. So here I am setting up a custom view like I talked about in the ZapLink properties. And if I ever tumble around or need to change anything, I can always snap back to that custom view if I need to. I'm making the background green with no range, which is like a green screen. And I changed the render to flat so I can just grab his diffuse off. And I go ahead and grab doc and save that out. And that's going to be my diffuse layer, which is going to be all my color information. Then I'm going to go into the subtool master and I'm going to turn off colorize on all my subtools. I'm not going to bother filling with different materials or anything. Just to save time, I'm just going to turn the colorize off and go that way. And in order to do that correctly, I'm going to go to preferences and make that inactive subtool dimming up to 0.9 so that the differences between the selected and non-selected subtools is not that much. Grab the matte cap white and then export a version of that just in case I need it, like an ambient occlusion pass. And then I do a best render pass and grab it and export it. So again, that's going to be like an ambient occlusion that I'm going to overlay or multiply on top of the color map. Go back into render preview mode, grab a basic material, make the color black, and position my first light. I'm going to click on that light to send it back behind. It's kind of like a rim light, and then I can crank up the light intensity, the high dynamic range if I want to, or the specular intensity to kind of get what I want. And eventually I'm going to take this and use it as a screen layer over that color map, which you'll see in a little bit. And of course you can change the specular curve as well to get the material properties that you want. And you can change the material, so metal material if you wanted to, and do all these changes as well. I'm just going to use a basic material just for sake of time. That's my high key light. And I'm going to do the same thing for the fill light. Just move that light around to the other side. And grab doc and export it. And then I'll send that light back around to the front and do just a basic fill to kind of get a basic fill in case I need it. And the specular won't be too crazy. So I'll turn that down a little bit. And again, if I wanted to, I could turn the light down. And even for the basic fill, it looks like I sent the light back around behind. But I use the softer fall off on the specular, and it's not so bright. And to get the subtools masked out by themselves, I just went to a flat render and then changed that subtool dimming. I just cranked it down so that as you select the subtool, it turns white and all the other ones are almost black. So it's really easy to grab those individually if you need to. And again, you can just grab texture, or grab the doc and export it. And here I am adding them to loading files into layers using the automated stack function in Photoshop. And the good thing about that is if your files are named, it'll actually bring them in as named layers. So that's kind of cool. And you're just using the magic wand. I'm getting rid of the green screen and throwing a black layer behind everything. And we'll start with that flat diffuse. And I'll add an adjustment layer. And you'll notice as I go between the adjustment layers and the actual layers I'm adjusting, my icon will turn to kind of a funny, like two balls and an arrow. And that's going to link the adjustment layers to just that layer so it doesn't affect everything below it. You can see I just did it right there. So that'll put that little arrow down. So that's an easy way to kind of link adjustment layers to their own layer. So my ambient occlusion was a multiply layer. And the high key was just a screen. This fill, I'm trying a few different things, and how you do that is just by clicking normal, and when that turns blue, you can use your up and down arrow to go between adjustment layer, or not adjustment layers, but the different layer modes. So you can kind of just move up and down between them and see what works for you. I think I ended up with just a color dodge on the fill, and of course screen on the key high, and probably screen on the other one but it's a little overpowering, kind of makes everything really milky, so I've dropped the opacity down, and actually, yeah, I just ended up deleting it, I think. And here I am back on the ambient occlusion layer, and I'm trying to be as non-destructive as possible, so I make it's a add vector mask, and I'm just painting out through that vector mask using black and white colors. And I do that on all this. On the fill high, I'm getting rid of any key light stuff that doesn't really make sense, or that's in a weird area, like on the back sides of things. So instead of actually erasing it out, I'll just use a vector mask in case I ever want to bring that back in. And again, I'm doing that by creating a vector mask, and then just using the black brush to get rid of it. Alternatively, you could also fill that vector mask with black and then paint in white. So you can start out with nothing and then bring back in what you need. Here I'm doing an alpha grab doc to get that Z depth, and then I'll export that. And this will export as a 16-bit grayscale. And what I'm going to have to do is change the mode to 8 bits, and then Control A, and then copy. And I'm going to paste that into my alpha 1 channel of the image I'm working on. And I go ahead and copy all and paste merged, and then I go to filter blur lens blur. And in the lens blur, I can actually move my cursor out there and click on the area I want to focus on. In the source, you see I brought in my alpha 1. I have my preview on. So if I click over to the right, it'll actually focus on the right. It'll focus wherever I click. And here I'm changing the blur focal distance manually. But the blur focal distance you can also set just by clicking on your image. And of course the radius is how much blur is applied based on their map. And here you can use the dodge and burn tools, and in CS4 you can have that protect tone checked, which is up at the top, and that'll maintain so it won't dodge and burn to gray like it used to do. Now it'll protect your colors. You can use that. You can also add a color dodge layer, and you can pick kind of darker tones to add different colors and kind of add a little bit more life to your image. And again, this is a quick and dirty version of the actual final marketing thing. I don't know if they'll include the final PSD on the DVD or not, but if they do, you'll be able to see exactly what I did. But again, this one's a little bit quick and dirty. Here's my multiply layer to add in any shadows. Mostly cast in contact shadows. Anyway, that's about it. Hope that was helpful.